Videos to allow you to correct your homework for section 3.3.2. The first thing I want to point out to you is in the methods and meanings, they remind you that when you multiply decimal numbers, you are going to count the number of decimal places in the first factor, the number of decimal places in the second factor, add those together to figure out how many decimal places you need in your answer. So in this example, we have 2 and 3/10, one digit behind the decimal point. We have 5 and 6/100, two places behind the decimal point. So 1 plus 2 means we need 3 decimal places in the answer. So we multiply as though they're whole numbers, and then we place our decimal point 3 places from the back so that we create 3 decimal places. We've also talked about why that is the case. This is 2 and 3/10 times 5 and 6/100. If you multiply tenths times hundredths, you get thousands. So your answer is going to be in the thousands. Here they want you to find this answer using the standard algorithm for division. So standard algorithm just means the normal method. So we're going to take 15 and 75/100, and we're going to be dividing that by 25/100. Now, you can have a decimal point in your dividend for long division, which means in here. You just put it up into the quotient. However, you cannot have a decimal point out here in the divisor. And if you do, you will need to move the decimal point however many places you have to make it a whole number, and do the same thing in your dividend. So we move it 2 decimal places here to make that the whole number 25, and we'll need to move it 2 decimal places then here. So we'll end up with 25 being our divisor, and we'll end up with 1,575 being our dividend. Now, if after we'd moved those 2 decimal places in our dividend, we still had a decimal point in our dividend, we would just put it up again in our quotient. So 25 does not go into 1 or 15. It goes into 157 6 times, giving us 150. We're going to subtract, and we'll get a remainder of 7. And then we're going to bring down that 5. 25 will go into 75 3 times, giving us 75. Subtract, and we'll get a remainder of 0. If we had not gotten a remainder of 0, we would have put our decimal point here, put it up into the quotient, and then brought down a 0 and continued our division process. Now, that is again considered the standard algorithm, the regular way we do long division. Now they want you to think about the idea of a giant 1. Well, using a giant 1 would be thinking of it as 15 and 75/100. Or you can change that right away to 1,575/100. So the reason I'm saying that is because if you were going to change 15 and 75/100 from a mixed number to a fraction greater than 1, that's what we'd get. And then we're dividing that, remember a fraction bar means division, by 25/100. So what we want to do is we want to then multiply by a giant 1. And the giant 1 is going to be something that when we multiply by it, we can clear out or make this denominator into 1. So if you simplified, you could make this 1/4, and you could multiply by 4/1. That would be one way to do it. You could also leave it as it is and multiply by 100/25. Again, the reason we're doing that is because that will, that's the reciprocal basically of 25/100. And when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you get 1. If we're going to do it in the bottom, we have to do it in the top. So we're multiplying by 125 this way. And what you see then is the hundredths here and here simplify. So what do we end up with? We end up with 1,575 divided by 25, which is exactly what we have here. Again, why is that the case? Well, the 100 simplifying means you're just going to have 1,575 here. 25 will be the denominator here. And then this is going to give you 1. So 1,575 over 25 is the same as 1,575 divided by 25. So show this work, but then understand you're really back to long division. If you had made this into 1/4 and then multiplied by 4 over 1, top and bottom, that would have given you a different technique, a different way to do it. So either way, of course, your answer should be 63. And what method do you prefer? It's really a matter of what makes sense to you. Here you have to write an equation and then find the answer. And they want the answers in decimal form. So what's the product of 3/10 and 4/100? So what I would want to see is, all right, we know 3 times 4 is 12. We know we have 1 decimal place here and 2 decimal places here. Again, how many digits behind the decimal point is the decimal places. So 1 plus 2 means we need 3 decimal places in our answer. And if we're going to have the number 12 and we go 3 decimal places in, we're going to go 1, 2, and that's why we need that 0. So that's why the decimal point is located there. So again, a little more work than this would be good. 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, we need 3 decimal places in the answer. Here we have the sum of 5 and 1300ths plus 12 and 6/10. 5 and 1300ths plus 12 and 6/10. I should see that you lined up the decimal points, showed your work, and got your answer. So here, I should see the decimal places as to how you correctly figured out your answer. Here, I should see that you lined up your decimal points to get the answer. Here, we're doing subtraction. So 47 and 7/10 minus 23 and 1900ths. Now, again, don't just have this answer. Make sure you have work shown. So 47 and 7/10, if we're going to subtract 23 and 1900ths, what happens is, and this is important to practice, you've done it in elementary school, but it's good review, you're going to need to add a 0 here. You can't take away 9 from nothing. What I mean by that is, it is going to be a value of 0, but you need to put that 0 there so you can show your regrouping. So 9 can't be taken away from 0, but then once you borrow from the 7, you'll make that a 6. Then this would become a 10. 10 minus 9 gives you 1. 1 from 6 gives you 5. 3 from 7 is 4. And 2 from 4 is 2. So again, I'm getting that same answer, although it's a bit messy, but you need to show how you get that answer. It's good review. Product of 20/100ths and 65,000ths. Well, again, 20/100ths, go here, I guess, has 2 decimal places. 65,000ths has 3 decimal places. So we need 5 decimal places in the answer. So you take 20 times 65, and you end up getting 20 times 65 is 1,300. So let me show you that. Because 2 times 65 is 130. 20 times 65 is 1,300. But you need 5 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how we get that answer. And then they also dropped off those extra non-essential zeros at the end. But again, make sure you show that. We should see how you got that. If you just put in a calculator, you're going to get this. But that doesn't talk about or explain where the 5 decimal places are coming into effect. And then what's the sum of 14/10ths and 14/100ths? Well, 14/10ths is fraction greater than 1. So 14/10ths is the same as 1 and 4/10ths. So that would look like this. And then 14/100ths, and then you should show what you get when you add it, which is 1 and 54/100ths. Here, there's an error in each one. You have to find the error, explain how to correct it, and then correct it. So for A, we have no decimal places in 10, 1 decimal place in 5. They multiplied 5 times 10, which is fine, but we should have moved in 1 decimal place in our answer. So for A, the decimal point's in the wrong place, and it should be 5 and 0/10ths. Here, they didn't line up their decimal point, so you need to show a rewrite of this when you do line up the decimal point. Again, don't just give me this answer, show your steps. Here, they needed to add a decimal point and 3 zeros to be able to do the subtracting. So again, I need to see the work, not just the answer. Here we have 3 decimal places and another 3 decimal places, so we should have 6 decimal places in the answer, and I want to see that. Here again, we're subtracting, but this is a common mistake. They just brought down the 8. We have to add a 0 here and go through our borrowing or regrouping process. So again, if you just put down what I'm putting down here, it will not be adequate. You need to show your work. And here you need to align your decimals again. So you can see what the answer should be, but you do need to show the work to explain how you got those answers. Here you're going to multiply the fractions or the decimals and simplify if you can. So 3/4 times 3/5 is just 9/20. 9/20 times 4/9. I would simplify the 9s. I would simplify the 4 and the 20. You end up getting 1/5, but again, make sure you're showing your work. Here you should change these both to fractions greater than 1. So this would be 19/6 times 4/3. Again, make sure that you're showing any simplifying you're doing. You're getting this fraction greater than 1 and then the mixed number. Here you need to change them again both to fractions greater than 1, which would be 9/4 times 16/5. Again, just having what I have here is not adequate. You need to show that work, show that step. And here, again, I should see the multiplication, not just an answer. And likewise there. So I just want to make sure that you're clear that just having these answers is not going to be adequate. It's good that you've got them, you know what you're looking for, but make sure you show your work. And then here, division problems. So I should see a rewrite. I should see that you did the keep, change, flip. So like for this first one, it'd be 6/5 times -2/3. I should see the simplifying, the multiplying, and then you get your final answer of -4/5. Here I should see that you rewrote it as 7/4 times 5/3. Simplify, multiply. Here, -4/0. Remember we talked about the fact that you cannot have division by 0, and a fraction bar does show division. So that part right there tells you that it's not possible. And then here, change the -1 1/4 to 5/4, -5/4. Again, do a keep, change, flip, show your work. So I really want to be clear that I'm looking for work for this entire set of questions.